Hey everyone! You've probably heard wild stories about the US-Japan relationship, some epic, some totally off base. Are they just military buddies? Cultural opposites? Or maybe secret rivals? Today, we're diving into 10 myths about this fascinating partnership and uncovering the truths with real-life examples. Buckle up, because this roller coaster of history, culture, and friendship is gonna blow your mind. Stick around, hit that like button, and let's get started. US and Japan are only military allies. Many folks think the US-Japan relationship is all about tanks and treaties, like the 1960 Security Treaty. It's easy to see why. World War II history and US bases in Okinawa make it seem like a purely strategic deal. I used to think this too, watching Hollywood war movies growing up. But this view ignores the deeper layers. People focus on military headlines, like joint exercises, and miss the everyday connections. It's like saying a friendship is only about helping each other move furniture. There's way more to it. But hold on, there's a vibrant side to this partnership that goes beyond the barracks. Let's uncover the truth. US and Japan share deep cultural and economic ties. The US and Japan are like best friends who trade, create, and inspire each other. Think about it, Japanese anime like Naruto is huge in the US. And American fast food chains like McDonald's are everywhere in Tokyo. I've seen Japanese teens rocking Nike sneakers while sipping Starbucks, and American kids practicing sushi making on YouTube. Economically, Japan's car brands like Toyota dominate US roads, and US tech giants like Apple thrive in Japan. In 2022, bilateral trade hit $296 billion. This isn't just about missiles, it's about sharing culture and cash. Japanese culture is too alien for Americans. People often say Japanese culture, think tea ceremonies or bowing etiquette, is too out there for Americans to get. I've heard friends say, they're so formal, it's like another planet. This comes from stereotypes in media, like samurai films or quirky game shows. Sure, some customs, like taking off shoes indoors, feel different, but this myth paints Japan as unreachable, ignoring how Americans actually engage with it. It's like saying you can't enjoy pizza because Italy's far away. Culture travels, and so do people. But is Japan's culture really that distant? Let's break this myth wide open. Americans embrace Japanese culture in daily life. Far from alien, Japanese culture is a big part of American life. Walk into any mall, and you'll find ramen shops or kawaii plushies. My cousin's obsessed with Pokemon cards, and her friends host cosplay parties. In 2023, over 1.5 million Americans visited Japan, soaking in shrines and street food. Even my local grocery store sells matcha Kit Kats. Japan's influence isn't just trendy, it's personal. From judo classes to Studio Ghibli marathons, Americans don't just get Japanese culture, they live it. US dominates Japan economically. Some believe the US holds all the economic power in this relationship, like a big brother calling the shots. This stems from post-World War II days when the US helped rebuild Japan. I've heard people say, Japan just follows America's lead. It's true the US has a massive economy, $25 trillion GDP in 2022, but this myth ignores Japan's own strength. It's not a one-way street. People overlook Japan's global brands and innovation, thinking it's just a sidekick. That's a lazy take, but is Japan really in the US's shadow? Let's flip the script. Japan is a global economic powerhouse alongside US. Japan's no economic pushover, it's the world's third largest economy, with a $4.2 trillion GDP in 2022. Brands like Sony, Nintendo, and Honda aren't just players, they're game changers. I remember my first PlayStation, pure Japanese innovation. Japan's also a tech leader, from robotics to high-speed trains. In the US, Japanese firms employ over 860,000 workers. Meanwhile, US companies like Tesla rely on Japanese batteries. It's a partnership of equals, not a boss-employee vibe. Both nations drive global markets together. US-Japan relations are always smooth. People often picture the US and Japan as perfect pals, always in sync. I used to think this, seeing leaders shake hands at summits. The 1960 Security Treaty and shared values like democracy fuel this idea. But every friendship has bumps. Trade disputes in the 1980s, like over cars, got heated. Even today, issues like US bases in Okinawa spark protests. This myth ignores the real-world tensions that test any close relationship. It's not all cherry blossoms and high fives. So, are there cracks in this friendship? Let's get real. US-Japan relations face challenges but remain strong. Like any close bond, US-Japan ties have their dramas, but they're built to last. Take the 1980s trade wars. Japan's car exports scared US automakers, leading to tariffs. Yet, both sides negotiated deals, like voluntary export limits. Today, Okinawa's base issues cause friction, but joint efforts, like disaster relief after Japan's 2011 tsunami, show resilience. I've seen videos of US soldiers helping rebuild schools. Heartwarming stuff. In 2023, both nations reaffirmed their alliance against regional threats. It's a friendship that fights, forgives, and grows stronger. Japan blindly follows US foreign policy. Some think Japan's just America's loyal sidekick, nodding along to every US decision. This comes from images of Japan supporting US-led wars, like in Iraq. I've heard people say, Japan's got no spine. It's true, Japan often aligns with the US. Think NATO summits or sanctions on North Korea. But this myth oversimplifies things. Japan's got its own goals, and it's not just a yes man. Ignoring that makes Japan sound like a puppet, which is far from the truth. Is Japan really just America's shadow? Let's set this straight. Japan pursues its own strategic interests. Japan's no pushover. It's got its own playbook. While it backs the US on big issues, like countering China, Japan also carves its own path. For example, it's pushed for peace in Asia through ASEAN summits, sometimes softening US hardlines. I read about Japan mediating US-North Korea talks in 2018. Pretty bold. Japan also invests heavily in Africa, where the US lags, to secure resources. Its constitution limits military moves, but diplomacy? Japan's a heavyweight. In 2023, it hosted G7 talks, setting global agendas. That's no follower. Americans don't care about Japanese history. There's a belief that Americans are clueless about Japan's past, only caring about sushi or anime. I've heard this at parties. Americans just see Japan as a vacation spot. It's partly true. US schools don't dive deep into Japan's feudal era or Meiji restoration. Pop culture overshadows samurai history. But this myth assumes Americans are totally indifferent, which sells them short. It's not that they don't care. It's that the history is often drowned out by modern hype. But do Americans really ignore Japan's roots? Let's dig deeper. Many Americans study and respect Japanese history. Americans are more curious about Japan's history than you'd think. Universities offer courses on Japan's Edo period or World War II. My friend took a class on samurai ethics and was hooked. Museums like the Smithsonian host exhibits on Japanese art, drawing crowds. In 2023, a documentary on the shogunate got millions of streams. Even gamers learn history through Assassin's Creed set in feudal Japan. Americans don't just consume Japan's present, they dive into its past with respect and fascination. US and Japan have no cultural conflicts. Some think the US and Japan are culturally in sync, like they share the same vibe. I used to assume this, seeing McDonald's in Kyoto. Shared love for tech and democracy fuels this idea. But differences in etiquette, like Japan's group-first mindset versus US individualism, cause friction. I've heard stories of American tourists offending locals by being too loud. This myth ignores how cultural gaps create real misunderstandings, even if they're not deal breakers. So, are there cultural clashes? Let's face the music. Cultural differences cause occasional misunderstandings. Cultural hiccups happen, but they're part of the US-Japan dance. Japan's indirect communication can confuse blunt Americans. I once saw an American colleague misread a Japanese maybe as a yes, causing a project delay. Personal space norms differ too. Japanese subway etiquette feels intense to Americans. But both sides adapt. US expats learn to bow, and Japanese students embrace American slang. In 2023, cultural exchange programs hosted 20,000 participants, proving both nations work to bridge gaps with respect. Japan resents US for World War II bombings. Many assume Japan holds a grudge against the US for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's a heavy topic. Those 1945 bombings killed over 200,000 people. I've heard people say, "How could Japan forgive that?" Media sometimes plays up lingering tensions, like protests at peace memorials. But this myth assumes Japan's stuck in the past, ignoring how both nations have moved forward. It's not that the pain's forgotten, but resentment isn't the full story. Does Japan still hold that grudge? Let's uncover the reality. Japan and US focus on peace and reconciliation. Japan and the US have worked hard to heal World War II wounds. Hiroshima's Peace Park, visited by Obama in 2016, symbolizes forgiveness. I've talked to Japanese students who see the US as a partner, not an enemy. Joint projects, like nuclear disarmament talks, show commitment to peace. In 2023, over 400,000 Americans visited Hiroshima, learning its history with respect. My friend's grandma, a survivor, shared tea with American visitors saying, "We build bridges now. It's about moving forward, not dwelling on pain." US-Japan alliance is only about China. Some say the US-Japan alliance is laser-focused on countering China, like a Cold War reboot. News about joint naval drills or Quad meetings fuels this. I've seen online debates claiming it's all about geopolitics. Sure, China's rise is a factor. Both nations worry about regional influence. But this myth reduces a complex partnership to a single issue. It's like saying a marriage is only about paying bills. There's way more at play, from trade to tech. Is China the only glue here? Let's broaden the view. Alliance covers trade, security, and global issues. The US-Japan alliance is a Swiss Army knife, handling way more than just China. It's about trade, like the USMCA deal benefiting both. It's about security, like joint cybersecurity against hacks. And it's global, think climate talks or COVID vaccine sharing. I read about their 2023 pact to explore space together, aiming for the moon. Both nations co-lead on issues like women's empowerment in Asia. China's part of the puzzle, but the alliance is a big picture, tackling world challenges as a team. Young Americans and Japanese don't connect. People assume young Americans and Japanese are worlds apart, too different to vibe. I've heard, they're into TikTok, Japanese kids are studying. Stereotypes of strict Japanese schools versus carefree US teens fuel this. Language barriers don't help. English and Japanese aren't easy to bridge. But this myth ignores how globalized youth culture is. It's not like they're living on different planets. Social media, music, and trends tie them closer than you think. Are the youth really disconnected? Let's zoom into reality. Young Americans and Japanese share global youth culture. Young Americans and Japanese are totally in sync, thanks to global culture. My cousin and her Japanese pen pal bond over BTS and Demon Slayer. Social media is a game changer. Instagram and TikTok let them share memes instantly. In 2023, 10,000 US students studied in Japan, and Japanese teens flocked to US summer camps. I saw a viral video of Tokyo kids doing the latest US dance trend. Nailed it from K-pop to gaming. Youth culture's a universal language, and they're fluent. There you have it, 10 myths about US-Japan relations, debunked with the juicy truth. This partnership isn't just about treaties or trade, it's a living, breathing friendship full of culture, challenges, and shared dreams. From anime to economic wins, these two nations prove that differences can spark something amazing. If you loved this deep dive, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell for more myth-busting videos. What's one thing you thought was true about US-Japan relations? Drop it in the comments. I'm curious.